topics.
Good afternoon. You are actually listening to The Inspirational Parent, our new show here on KHTS. I'm here in the studio today with my dad, Alex Urbina, and we're going to be talking about, if you're not watching on Facebook, you're going to want to jump on and watch on Facebook. I just wanted to point that out. But so today we're going to be talking about the mental, emotional, or spiritual growth. Which one of these is your child in need of? And I wanted to talk about this topic today because I find that it is, I don't want to say impossible, it's a challenge to be completely perfect in all three aspects of growth, which these are the three that we're going to point out and go over. But what I wanted to start off with, Dad, was what is the importance of having all three before we jump into dissecting and how to train your kids and help them grow in all of these three different categories?
I think it's important because when you think about having children that are centered and grounded and really solid in knowing who they are and living a life of purpose and passion and really being healed and living an amazing or an extraordinary life filled with love and happiness and peace, you have to be well-rounded. And in order to be well-rounded, you have to really work on all areas of your self-improvement. And those are the three that are really the ones that I focus on when I get either teens in a training room and do some personal growth, or we're getting parents in a training room. We're working on the whole self. And in order to work on the whole self, we really have to address the mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of a human being, such that you're centered and grounded and you're clear about some of the choices you make, such that those choices are beneficial to you, they're effective, and you're creating extraordinary results for yourself.
Yeah, and I really like that you use the word well-rounded, because people would use that word to describe other people. So like I would hear teachers say, oh, your kid is so well-rounded, or, oh, we're so proud of, and I would always think, I know well-rounded means maybe you're good at a lot of things, or, but it never really had like a solid definition for me. But this makes sense. To be well-rounded is having that spiritual, mental, I already forgot our whole
mental, emotional, and spiritual growth.
Having all three of those is what's important in kind of balancing out all aspects of our life.
That's right. A lot of times I talk about in the training room when it comes with working with teens, I point out a lot of times how in society we're so fixated on people that are successful, whether it's financially or you have a lot of followers, or you're a celebrity, you're well known in the world, but you could be suffering silently, both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can have this void. And that's how a lot of celebrities are slowly killing themselves, whether they flat out, take their own life by a suicide attempt, or they're slowly killing themselves through an addiction of some sort, because they are empty inside, and there are some growth areas that they avoided or didn't know, or no one taught them, or they just didn't see the importance of being well-rounded and kind of working on some of those inner qualities that we need in order to be centered, grounded, and balanced, and living a life of freedom and passion and having some peace in our life. So
can we go ahead and jump into describing first what that entails, what mental growth means, and then we'll go over why it's important. And then I think it would be really insightful for a lot of parents to maybe rate yourselves after we give this description. Rate yourselves on a 1 to 10 where you think you are and where you think your kids are also in that specific category.
Yeah, I think, let's start off with your son or daughter. I mean, you can put yourself in this situation because we talk about our kids or our teens. We were once a child and we were once a teen ourselves. And my theory is that a lot of us don't really mentally, emotionally, or spiritually grow past a certain point. Because I know 40 and 50-year-olds that are still stuck in a mentality or an emotional roller coaster of being 12 years old, or some of us are still 16 or 17. We're just in a 50-year-old body. And so when you're thinking about that, and you think mentally, what kids get stuck in a mental kind of like a prison, is their insecurities. as human beings, we create insecurities when we're young. And a lot of times those insecurities are created out of which the environment which we're raised in. Normally it's our family, or it's interacting with our parents. And so what happens is when we're young, and when we're born purely magnificent and we know ourselves to be that. The problem starts to come into play when we start interacting with our family and our parents, and we start creating what's called limiting beliefs. And we start to create doubts about ourselves. We start creating fears that limit us. We start creating beliefs about our family or the world or love or whatever it might be about the way the world works. So here's an example, and you've heard this probably about 1,000 times, but let's say, you're really excited about something that you did that you're proud of, and you go looking for your mom and dad to share that excitement to get validation. And you're 4 or 5 years old, and as you're running around the home trying to find someone to share that excitement to validate how extraordinary you are, how amazing you are, or how proud you really are of yourself, and you get to your dad and you don't realize, as a 4 or 5 years old, that your mom or dad are really busy and nervous and afraid of their own insecurities in their own life. And so dad's, worrying about how he's going to pay this next bill. And you're right there going, Dad, look what I just did. And he looks over and says, not right now, son. Now, in that moment, you heard not right now, but you made up these stories. You made up limiting beliefs. What limiting beliefs could you possibly make up about yourself when dad says not right now, when you're really excited and you need validation?
That whatever that thing isn't important.
Right. So what I have to share with you is not important, or I'm not important. More importantly, you can create a belief about dad in that moment, which is dad doesn't care about me. So that's one tiny limiting belief that we create as human beings about ourselves. And we go the rest of our life creating more new ones, new and improved limiting beliefs or doubts about ourselves. We also go looking for validation to prove that I have a limiting belief and that it's true. And that's the heartbreaking part as a parent, is realizing, man, how much did I play a part in contributing to the limiting beliefs and doubts and insecurities that my own son or daughter has? And you didn't do it intentionally. You just did it because it was just the way that we interacted with each other unconsciously and not really being aware and picking our words very carefully.
Yeah, and even though I've heard that story a million times, what I love about it is that it's such a small, minuscule thing that your parent just does in their normal life.
Right? Not right now. I'm busy.
Yeah, that you as a little kid could never, ever, ever possibly in a million years. This is one of the times I'm okay with saying it's impossible. It is impossible for your little kid to understand that not right now is you going through a million different struggles trying to pay bills, and they don't see that at all.
They don't have the capacity. Their little brains aren't evolved enough to be able to think that big or forward, or they don't know what bills are. They don't know what struggle, and they look up at you and they think that you're God. They think that you can handle anything. They don't, kids look up and see their parents. They don't see them as struggling. They see them as that you're the man or woman that is Superman or Superwoman. You can handle anything. So for you to be frustrated and really not paying attention to them, their tiny minds can't wrap their mind around that. So what happens is the mind has to make up a story. It has to come up with something. Our minds are story makers. It makes up a story, and we call that a belief. Now the question is did you make a limiting belief or an empowering belief? And I feel like 80 to 90% of the times when our mind doesn't have all the correct information about something, we make up a limiting belief, and that's the unfortunate thing that we have to deal with as kids. And then we wonder why we're struggling as adults.
So the importance of actually having mental, growth and stability, I want to kind of go into that, why it's important and what you've seen, examples of what you've seen with teens who either don't have it or do have it, and it's some way we can paint a picture so people can understand what it is we're actually talking about.
Well, let's take kids that either believe that they're not smart enough, that they're not good enough, that they're not talented enough. I think the main huge limiting belief that most of us deal with is not being enough of something. We look around at the world. More importantly, we look around at society, or we watch TV or the internet, and we're exposed to so much of the world that we compare ourselves to other people. And through that comparing, we come up with and validate the belief that I'm not as talented as this person. We really slowly start to play this game that I'm not anything special. And what we don't realize is that there is something extraordinary about you. There's something unique and one of a kind that you offer. You're an actual gift. You're a miracle. The trick in life is to figure out and discover what that miracle is. And when you do, and you, for the first time in your life, discover and realize what that gift is, you automatically get feverishly excited to live the rest of your life sharing that gift with other people. And if we're not setting up an environment for our kids to go down that path to discover their gift or their miracle or their passion and end up living a purpose-driven life, then I feel, and this is just me, I feel like we've done a disservice to our kids.
So I'm going to ask you this $1 million question, and you can give it away or not, but
do I get the million? That's all I want to know.
So and I'm probably going to ask it 3 times per each category, but what is it for parents that they can do that's going to bring us as their kids? And this is probably, I'm talking very young, because once you get to your teenage years and your young adult years, you have to change and reinvent yourselves a little bit. But when they're young, how do they start that process of giving them that mental stability where they can start growing and parenting?
The very first thing that you can do, especially when they're little, is keep your eyes on them all the time. Our eyes are so powerful that when we look at something, we give it life, we give it energy, we give it validation. And I think what happens commonly is when we're little babies, when we're little toddlers, we're always looking for validation to figure out who we are, to know that we exist and know that we're important. And the greatest gift you can give your kids as a parent is to give them your eyes. Always be thinking about catching their eyes looking at you, looking at them. I don't know if that makes sense. So let's say a little kid's tying their shoe for the very first time and they're struggling and you're sitting there, you're watching and you're in awe. The minute you take your eyes off, they finally tie it. And when they tie it, they have this amazing feeling of being accomplished and being proud of themselves. And the first thing they want to do is look up to see who's watching them. And if your eyes aren't locked on them to give them the security and the validation that they've been seen, that they've been caught red-handed being extraordinary, then you miss a huge opportunity to validate who they are. And I think that that's a huge unconscious shortcomings that us as parents aren't aware of, that our kids need to be seen. They need to be validated based on other people acknowledging them. And I think your eyes are very important. If you can look at your kids and stop what you're doing and let them catch you watching them, that is the greatest gift you can give them. Forget about words. Start practicing how to be more present and observing more and letting your kids catch you watch them, and you'll create some pretty extraordinary kids that really see themselves as powerful human beings.
Wow, I really love that. I think that's a really amazing thing for a parent to consciously, especially when your kids are young and you're young, to consciously keep remembering to pay attention to them. I know that sounds bad. Parents are probably thinking, I'm always paying attention to my kid, but there's times where you're not. And those times are the times that are the ones that are important.
That's right. That's right. If we could put a hidden camera in your home and actually record how often you're noticing your son or daughter consciously and really aware and giving them that attention, you'll be surprised how many times you're not. And if you can have a bird's eye view of watching all the things that they're doing and you're not sitting there watching them with the eyes to let them know, hey, I see you. To have eyes on you, to acknowledge that you're seen or to be recognized as I see you, is the greatest gift you can give somebody.
That's really good advice. I obviously don't have kids, but my boyfriend has a nephew who's 2, and he does the cutest thing where if he's doing something and no one's paying attention to him, he'll go, ta-da! And then when you look, he'll do it again to get your attention. Yeah. I don't know where he learned that from, but I think
it's intuitive. It's instinctual. We need to be recognized for who we are, not necessarily what we accomplished. And I know that we've wired ourselves to be so competitive and to win all the time and to achieve and accomplish. And that's how a lot of kids get their validation and their goodies, is to always be achieving. And that can be unhealthy as well.
It can, and I can see it sometimes even as a little baby, but constantly he spends his whole day trying to get his mom's attention, his uncle's attention, his grandma's attention, his uncle, so I see it all day. And this is really good insight because now I could be the fun aunt that is always giving him, the I can acknowledge him when I see him doing something good in that way by just seeing him.
And now you know why I'm so excited to be a grandfather, if and when it comes, because I want to be those eyes for you when you're too busy worrying about your bills or worrying about your career. I want to be able to be there around the home and validating my grandkids with my eyes and my attention, and just, asking them questions and being their buddy, being their partner in life, and letting them know that they do matter, they are important, and that they are special in the world. And a lot of times, as new parents, we're not taught that. No one explains that to us. We don't have conversations about that. So it's just something that we just don't know, don't learn. And we do the best we can as parents.
So a couple weeks ago when we did our first inspirational parent show, we talked about different types of parenting, the controlling style and coaching style parenting. And in your book, when we were going over that, there's a section that says this model, referring to the coaching style parenting, guides children to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually centered to thrive in today's world. And so right there, I circled and I put show topic, because inside of our one show topic, I found another show topic that I really wanted to talk about. And I think if you are not really clicking with some of the stuff that we're saying, because I know I find that to be the case with a lot of stuff that we talk about, because we use words that maybe are confusing or words that only you and I communicate in. I really urge you to go back and listen to that show. It was 3 weeks ago, to listen to that show and understand the style of parenting that we are referring to, because the advice that you're giving is not in the controlling style parenting. It's the coaching style parenting.
And I can touch on it real quick. There's two different styles of parenting. There's the controlling style parent, which all of us adapt when we're unconscious, and we have our babies for the very first time. How hard is it to raise a baby? Because I'm 20 years their senior. I have more life experience. So what we do is we control that child. We control the outcome. We don't let them get hurt. We stop things, and we can pretty much control everything around them, and we continually think that we can control our kid as well, until they start to have their own voice, until they want to tie their own shoe and they go, stop, I want to do it. Stop, I want to do it. And they realize they have their own voice, they have their own mind, they can think for themselves. They slowly start to think, well, maybe I can live my own life. What a concept, right? 10, 11, 12 years old, they start to think that. This is now when the wise parent goes, okay, I can't control my kid anymore. I have to start learning a new parenting style, which is now open the door for you to transfer into the more of a coaching or mentoring style of a parent. And that kind of parent is more of an empowering parent. So what you want to start doing, instead of controlling them or trying to tell them what to do or give them the answers, you got to start learning how to draw the answers out. More and more parents are starting to realize that I can just be the coaching mentor parent from the beginning, which I think is extraordinary. You have to control a few things, but for the most part, you should be learning how to be the coaching style parent. Ask them open-ended questions. Let them come up with their own solutions. Let them come up with their own answers. And you want to draw the answers out from them, more from being an inspiration, from being empowering. You want to be their advocate. You don't want to be their master or their boss. You want to help lift them up and empower them to figure out who they are with their own choices, their own mind, and their own spirit-driven life.
Yeah, and now I want to kind of, with that, jump back to our $1 million question, where you said as kids, you need to keep your eyes on them and pay attention. What about as teenagers? What changes and shifts where teens are going to start becoming more mentally stable and be able to thrive out there? I
think that what continues is the eyes. You continue that because that's what you've trained them to
they look to you to feel accomplished.
They look to you for validation. And so with your eyes only, you're still validating them. However, when they become, young men, young women, they're also looking for a little bit more. So the next step would be also affection. And I don't know how many people grow up in homes where affection is just usual and customary. A lot of us grow up and we're not used to having affection, but having a physical affection where whether you come up and you rub your hand on their back, or you hold their hand, or you come up and even just a little nudge or a pat on the head or something like that, solidifies not only do I see you, but I also am acknowledging with a physical touch that you're here as well.
So this is a genuine, honest question. I have no idea why, but why does physical affection help so much, like with teens? Because I know that's what you and my mom did with me a lot. Was you guys would always come up and try to hug me, and I'd be like, "Get away, get away!" As a teenager. So why is that so important, or why does it work? Because I feel like even though I was pushing you guys away, a part of me was still like, "Wait, come back."
because of something called energy. Love is energy, and love is that energy is so powerful, it can translate with our eyes only. It can translate from my heart to your heart. It can translate from my genuine, authentic intuition, or my wanting or yearning of something for you. It can transfer from where I'm at to where you're at. However, if I do this, you're connected to my love at the source. Does that make sense? So here I'm transferring my love and my energy to you, but it's only landing at a 40 or 60%. I do this automatically. I solidify that 60% to 100%. It's undeniable when I go like this that I care about you. You know what I mean? It just seals the deal. A lot of times when I have, child and parent communicating, whether it's in a workshop or a one-on-one, a lot of times they'll say, okay, how do you want to seal that up? And it's automatic. They go like this. The way you seal up my deep, loving, affectionate communication with you is, now let's seal it up with a hug. Let's seal it up with something affection. Even a high five, sometimes we can seal it up, right? Like if I had a disagreement with you and I said I'm sorry, and you're like, I forgive you, I do one of these and we've sealed it up. See how your face lights up when I do that? It's automatic. We want to be physically connected to each other, and it's a great feeling, and it's a feeling of reminding us that people do care, and that people do think of us as someone that they love and care about.
We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.